An IT guy never talks IT. They engage someone who sounds very smart. Mel Conway said it in the 60s. Why business processes here? How they are related? There is IT accounting, because there are programs for a smart techie. Many do not care, and the overheated market doesn't make them think. And it seems to work, but structurally nothing changes in the company. To take developers' bread, these days it's easier to write an article than read a book. They have job, they have salary. Why put extra effort? I thought I was even coding in DDD. Read a book on DDD and found out it's something different. There are diamonds that can move mountains. It seems it doubles every 5 years, and it means that half a market has experience below 5 years. Let's sit still, sit tight. Yeah, sit tight. And things keep on improving. Hi, this is Top Management with LeadStartup podcast. I'm Mikhail, this is Andrei. Our guest today is Andrei Putin. He's a general director. Am I right? Yes, a managing owner of the kt.team company. That's right, general director, managing owner and founder. And founder, yes. Super. Today Andrei is going to tell us how it's not easy to manage a technological IT company, and will share his managing hacks. I suppose it'll be interesting. We'll ask him questions, as we know Andrei for a long time. He's one of the most, how to put it, delving into details of org structures, management, including his company, his experience working in enterprises, and in the past, in development too. In short, he knows the whole background. For people working in high-tech company, it will be super useful. Andrei, please tell us the latest, brightest highlight from the point of view of some discoveries in management skill and mastery. Maybe some insights, revelations you had recently. Well, for a long time we've been building our company as a gathering of highly talented people who know on their own different patterns of behavior, architectural schemes. For the whole company's life, we have been moving toward the maximum freedom. The company is 8 years old. I figure out I'm for 26 years in IT. Some of my employees are younger than that, many of them, and the company is 8 years old. Originally, we started on the principle, take as much freedom as you want. Now we realize that in management you have to clearly differentiate between run and change functions. You should not delegate change functions. Excusing management in why other teams have not arrived at the same conclusion. So all business processes, allow HR processes in our team are adjusted in CRM 7 by HR team itself. We have complex HR processes, complex production processes, despite the fact that we used pair programming to teach people who never programmed any changes in business processes. We realized that applicability of global strategic changes, strategic vision of the product, strategic development, strategic management schemes, what Hubbard calls the 7th division, board director and the whole board of directors, administrative office. That's the responsibility of owners. In KT we have 3 partners. There are 2 other partners managing the decision division. Overall, we know now that our responsibility, the biggest insight, is not that. Early we've been doing that intuitively, But now we are more than confident that's purely our function, and asking for introduction of architecture committees or some updates of fundamental status presentation from our employees does not look possible. There is not their task. Many other authors address that, including Odysseus. He introduces the notions of production people, administrators, entrepreneurs, integrators, communicators. And we find out that asking production people who are good in production, maintaining processes like no entrepreneur can do, asking them for any changes, it's not possible. We should not decline this responsibility. So the K intuitive, I realize intuitively, but now I know for sure, as it seems to me, in my current development, my illusion is that the function of management is my function, and the situation when I or people not authorized specifically get in charge of changes will never happen. It does not mean, by no means, that other employees don't have any options or way to introduce their changes, present them to their manager, and tell about them. But even if it doesn't happen, anyway, the responsibility for changes with owners. That's probably my brightest insight of this year, that we felt intuitively before. But we've not looking in this direction on purpose. Okay, thank you. In this connection, let me roll back into details. What you've just said, Hubbard, Odysseus, time after time, I cross ways with integrators, managers, and founder of IT companies, worked with many partners of Microsoft. You rarely see managers in different points, multiple justifications, three certain management practices, widely recognized, maybe experts in this area that you take aptly, use, test, keep, scale, or realize they are not good for you. As long as I know, you keep the search ongoing, and you are looking for some new tools, hacks, you read things, and then you apply that. I remember you're quiet, you don't like reading books potentially applicable to your business, that you cannot happily instantly. You said something of the kind about practices. I see growth of technology stack in IT companies. They take more efforts in engineering part, they grow the culture, certification and other things. But in your case, I see more movement toward quality of business processes and internal organization structure. Can you first tell whether this observation over several years is right or wrong, and share your view concerning how you see the evolution of technology company? In management direction, in technology direction, or a balance of both? A complicated question, starting from afar. Back in university, I sat on lectures. There were always two guys sitting behind me. I rarely saw them. Mostly, they were not sober. Sometimes they would bring beer and talked of chicks only. Meantime, we were nerds, talking about technology, libraries and things. A purely technical conversation. Once it seems we interfered with these guys. Discussion on some obviously higher matters, and they told us, that we sounded, not like pros. An IT guy never talks IT. I failed to get that point back then. Okay guys, better talk about your beer, and I took that advice arrogantly, but I remember it, it stuck in my memory somehow. By the way, these guys at Olympiads. For me, an Olympiad always was a challenging event, for which you have to prepare, spend lots of nerves. You arrive 2 hours ahead, lots of resources, stress, etc. But these guys took that lightly. They came chilled and relaxed and won first prizes. For me, it was such a sobering factor. To see that I'm learning technology here, thinking, but at the same time I'm unable to do things in a talented, cool way they do. What's the secret? Then I understood I'm not a prominent developer. After the 2000s, year 99, 2000 was the last year when I wrote something myself in big quantities. Okay, something I can still write, a couple of lines now and then, but I practically stopped coding since then. Today, very often, when talking to tech directors specifically, or when you know business is trying to solve their problems in technology, they engage someone who sounds very smart. Oh, Fuse, mountains of Bash technologies, lots of microservice architecture. Oh, it's no longer in fashion, service, etc., etc. And you recognize yourself. Back from mid-90s. So computer-minded only. Out of this, I, as of day, have shaped a clear idea that technologies cannot live without business. If architecture of an information counter does not consider business processes and information flowcharts, this architecture is a work done badly. Engineers may say as much as they like that we don't understand things, etc. But usually, when I consulted some companies about technology, when I communicated some boards, when I can see presentation files sometimes, I see lots of Bash technologies. You know that joke? Big data, data chain, blockchain, machine learning and stuff. Here I observe there is no advantage for business in it. It seems the newest technologies are used, but it won't work when context is not taken into account. It's not my idea, to be fair. In the 60s, Mel Conway said that. He stated the famous Conway's Law. In 2003, the prominent book was written by Eric Evans, Domain-Driven Design. Evans says a very simple story. What is object-oriented programming? Why object-oriented programming? Why you need this level of abstraction? Exactly for enabling you to match your objects in the program with real business objects, and they should be called the same. If in your real life, real business, in the object area you have a ship, a container and a policy how a container is loaded on a ship, you get 3 classes: a ship, a container and a policy. And it's very important to take that into account. Following from that is a story that techies take no interest. Once I saw it at a conf call where we spoke about technologies. When I ask what happens to your business processes, how are they and where are they, the answer was, why have business processes here, how they are related. When we are here about technologies, I know now for sure it's against DDD. It's an attempt to build an ideal IT system not taking business reality into account. It never ends well. As a rule, I hear that a frequent request from techies is to have a microservice architecture. It means conditionally that a monolith is surely worse than microservice, like some dogma. But it's not true. The one who thinks so does not understand fundamental laws. It's clear that, in theory, microservices can be built in the way they deliver effect in a certain scale, but for that you should make a business foundation. Your business should have microservice nature, the complexity of your processes. If you apply the same approach to all your departments, you can have just 3 people in one department and 200 in another. In one case, a microservice is relevant, in another it's not. As a rule, such simplifications give birth to even scarier monoliths. The most dangerous story I see for people I consult is what looks like super technology, like some achievement, a microservice architecture. However, in practice, it's a monolith that cannot be improved, developed, and all changes. All passion of managers who say, we want to have it this way, rebuild it. And developers may reply that this implementation would require quite a lot of efforts. So, we train our team to be always business-oriented, our developers. And overall, when we manage other contractors and developers, first of all, we focus on business and do our best to explain there are 3 levels in methodology: a service model, a bridge linking, engineering, and business, where this term is both engineering and business, a good match for the service notion. Service-oriented architecture, despite the fact it's a very fundamental thing, and its knowledge is must-have. Technical team often lacks knowledge in this area. Usually, we draw service maps, and after that, we teach them to match them with business processes and with workflow charts in turn. That's how we structure the whole story, ensuring that what we do in code would be in line with the way the business looks like. As a matter of fact, it's a digital copy of business. Why a digital copy of business? Why your reflection in a mirror is different from you? It shouldn't be like that. But you find out that the mirror is super technological, microservice driven, with auto-balancing. So what? The next conclusion from that, what we teach our team in any case, and the teams that come to us, technological ones, there cannot be just pure technologies. There are technologies everywhere in business, software everywhere. In accounting, there is IT accounting with its programs, business processes, and changes are needed there too. There is logistics, purchasing, etc. Each department has lots of its needs for changes, and such changes always take place through the info contour. If they always go through info contour, the manager, owner, or board cannot delegate this function to a smart techie. Because no matter how smart a tech is, how smart an engineer is, there is always a chance he'd fail to understand your concept. Your new vision of business process is right, and there would be a big problem in the end. And all our passion in search for changes was the search of an answer, how to make development better and cheaper. Now we are confident that good IT architectures are simple. Technologically, they are. We arrived at that not in a day. Before we had complex development, and it seemed to us like what you expected. It's a sophisticated software. It should be coded in a sophisticated way. But now we have realized it's just a consequence of poor architecture, a consequence of mismatch between the digital copy and the business itself. Pity to say, we have not understood Conway's laws and what Straustrum and Evans tried to tell us in their books. But it seems now we realized it in full. Still, the pulse to master some of ideas proposed by these guys originated like a recommendation or a borrowing someone's idea. Why people take it easy, like stack, buying expensive, I don't know what, selling piles of technologies at the level of a feature. There is no satisfaction with what we were doing. Well, now I am not fully satisfied either. It's my function in the team to be discontented. And like a scary creature from Lord of the Rings, Gollum. I'm a golem of our company who comes and says everything is bad, but that's my function. My biggest satisfaction is when I see that something was changed structurally. When observing we are implementing a project successfully and it works, but nothing has changed in the company. That was disturbing due to rational reasons. Had humanitarian higher order once, but the disturbing question was, if we don't deliver the strategic level value, who are we? Hence, guys doing the project well? Considering that technologies are evolving all the time, low-code, no-code solution, data, all that serving to take developers' bread. That was frightening for me. It's one thing. The second thing, why at a certain point I focused only on reading people of authority, because I realized I am unable to sell expertly, authoritatively my decisions to the team. Simple practice, pair programming or TDD. How to sell it to a developer? He takes it as an extra headache. Rationally, it's a move to a top league. When you can do extreme development, you are in top league. There are no doubts. Seems many developers don't understand that. If you are saying that because Andrei, we've been trying to solve this problem for a long time. We asked Andrei to come and tell us about TDD several years ago, more than 3 years, and it had no effects. Moreover, the developers, the guys who left, they said that you didn't implement TDD because you are so bad. There was a management desk in front of me how to sell my decision to the team. These days, I can't appeal to my experience in development, as my whole development experience is 25 times outdated. Probably I know things about memory allocation and I know assembler, but you can't surprise people with that. When I was leaving development, Java was very new thing. There was nothing more seriously than hello world. To put it simple, nothing seriously that I coded with Java. And my juggling in C. For today's developers not understand that. No way to explain how difficult it was back then. Today you can easily take a library. Lots of frameworks are available. So, as a developer, I'm not an authority for my team. If I'm not an authority as a developer, who am I? Just a talking head speaking of the bright future? That doesn't work. So I decided to revisit all books. All books reviewed by Fowler. And then, in parallel, I read some works put in references. I shaped a confirmation of my theories, but now based on a new syntax. I no longer tell the team that this is right, that's right. I can give 500 examples with references to big authorities. You can argue with me, but try to argue with Fowler or with Earl, it's not possible. The other thing, when we started making our developers and the engineers first go there and read books as a must-have, we realized that a part of the team on the overheated market are unwilling. One developer told me, why read? I'm coding anyway. I see it all in practice. And you're telling me things, if I won't apply the theory instantly, I would forget it. But I won't use it never in my life because I won't read. A closed loop. Such teams, such developers can't see any value of working at us. But our today's developers, of course, they see value in that. First win came only when we found arguments for reading books. Because like one of our engineers told me, having read a DDD book, he said, I thought I know DDD and code by DDD. He read a book on DDD and found out it's something different, pair programming. Very naive reality. Cognitive distortion. You ask any developer, do you understand the meaning of pair programming? The first answer is yes, sure, I understand the meaning of word pair and the meaning of word programming. Nevertheless, it's a very complex culture practice. What's culture? Culture is an open knowledge with lots of nuances and lots of interpretations. It's hard to work in pair programming. There are many nuances you simply have to know, not having read a thing on pair programming. I don't mean a Haber article, because Haber articles are usually written by people who read few books. These days it's easier to write an article than read a book. That's why we are trying to encourage teams to read books, giving them time for that, and they, by themselves, comprehend the thoughts we long desired to cultivate in our culture. Here we see the most significant changes in terms of development improvement. One of our clients said, Back when we switched in the team to pair programming, a part of our team started to code by TDD. He said, "Are you feeding drugs to your guys? Why they are coding so fast?" This is honey for managers' ears, because for a long time I tried to explain things to people in technical language. But then I turned to reasoning by authorities. Authorities, yes, authorities. And authorities work better. Andrei, do you have something to add? Yes, a question. I have friends, programmers. Sometimes we play computer games together, and sometimes we play them on work hours. Not mine, but they work full-time in big companies, totally different ones. And there are two questions. What happens to such guys working for you in distant form, and how you control they are not idling? And the second question is how you, by using authorities or by structuring your HR process, really made your people read books. Because as far as I know, such guys, they know it's important, it's a top league. On the other hand, they have job, they have salary, why put extra effort? What's a separate problem and a separate pain of developers, you know? It's not their stupidity. Dizzy says that for a production man, a good developer should be a good production man. You know lots of details, specifics. But there's no tomorrow for a production man. That's the problem. The production man's strategic vision has a much shorter cycle. And it's good. Because if he had a long cycle, just imagine a developer, you tell him, I need a green button. And he answers, well, first you'll have a green button, then violet, then yellow, then maybe there will be no button, then there will be a list. I'll make a whole framework for you for 100 million. Yes, and where is agile here? Wait for a couple of years. A familiar story. Then I won't make it and blame you for sitting me a task of a green button. And he'll be right, by the way. Yes, he'll be right. That's why the guys of this specific type need energy of those who would fill blind spots of future vision. But what future? Someone has to think about the future for them. Not because they are stupid or short-sighted, but because they are very much like a laser. Its light is very narrow, and laser cannot be a searchlight. Someone should look around, combine various fields of knowledge, put it all together and ask, will there be development tomorrow? When today GPT-3 reads a simplest code, when we see rocketing capitalization of low-code and no-code solutions, when Google in year 20 said no-code is the new name of low-code, putting most of its investments there, and there is Flutter. If people can see Flutter's conceptions, where it's going to, and its simplification of development, but not its ending point. The ending point is services like Flutterflow. Some builders of something on something. That's the next step in frameworks development. And I suppose my illusion is that you should talk about the future with guys like them, because they don't think of it by themselves. While overheated market doesn't push them to think. Because sometimes guys on probation in our company leave, guys not capable of anything in our opinion. When we let them go, we think, sure, you're not a development man, you have other talents. It's not that we say that out loud, but often we give them feedback, saying you don't grow, don't progress. things like this. And such people find a job offer instantly, with a pay 2 or 3 times higher we paid them. We thought they are overestimated, but someone in the market is prepared. And these are indicators of an overheated market. What does an overheated market mean? If there's shortage of buns, in principle, people are ready to buy any bun, even stale or burned. Because buns are few, they are in short supply. These buns are like any goods, any service. Bun manufacturers are digging a pit for themselves. As soon as productions learn to bake lots of quality buns, great many of other producers accustomed to that, who made their clients unused to good service, they will find themselves in a pit. Many developers today don't see tomorrow. They think they've hit the jackpot, that they're into such an exclusive job, that development is forever. Well, it will still exist in some form. And all that is moving into them. It's also hard to ignore development of languages. When I started as a developer, as ordered to make a code to write "Hello World" wasn't an easy task. But today it's elementary. It's elementary to write some web service. Meant loads of development. And today it comes out of box. A web service is ready to use. For sure it's going to evolve somehow. And all ecosystems being created. If we take a better look, here we need not a laser, but a huge bright spotlight. We see Microsoft, Oracle, and many other players going in direction of simplifying the development, because developers in the system with its current division of labor, they are not efficient, because they deliver final value themselves. Business lacks time to address it. How the creation of a feature, a green button, looks like today. Business would like to make a green button. Even then, resources are sufficient, but they never are, no matter how many developers you have. If business approached a dev and the dev says, "What? We'll put it into backlog, right?" So many posh words today. Backlog, agile, scrum, sprints, product owner, and things. We are very wise. So we have backlog, a magic word. Backlog, high level. And then we choose when we take this feature into sprint. Don't you see we are developers here, while you are some softs? Oh, you need some green button. We are thinking here of high things, architecture, microservices, of better ways to store files. SQL or not? It's a question. And it results in having the feature delivered to business. When? Not instantly. After a big while. Plus to that, it'll be delivered not in the desired form and not fully functional, because they'll say, "You asked for a green button, we may have. Our buttons have not yet learned to be green. We need refactoring. We have this refactoring scheduled for next autumn." And here comes the market with its schedule and says, if you won't change tomorrow, there will be no you. So business has an option of either accelerating development or speeding up changes by many ways, including development, or not accelerating, Life in one case, death in another. Business does not put this question like that. All businesses know you have to grow fast. It's a common denominator. But as soon as business tries to do something to IT, there comes a problem. And this problem can be solved only through rising overall culture in the team and explaining why. Of course, and effect relation. It's true, the market is overheated today, but it cannot stay overheated forever. Adam Smith laws always hold true. If some goods are overvalued or stay expensive for a long time, the market will find a way. Somehow, how to make such goods cheaper. Why doesn't everyone write in Notion? The Notion is so popular. Because you can make a database, lists and things without a single code line. Tilde. Tilde has pushed out already a lot of developers, but smart ones, sophisticated ones say, no, it's just make-up, it's nothing. We are here into sophisticated back-end processes. You are playing with Tilde. It's for babies. And we have scripts. Oh, we have this and that and high load. But the market is tough. The companies failing to make IT as fast as the business requires may undergo unpleasant transformations. So, answering the question, I'm confident developers play games in their work hour when they do not get what's the point of their real contribution. That's another problem flowing from this. If you can't see the result of your value, if backlog for you is constant tasks, it's clear that some value, some cool feature, but what's next? What's next? I interviewed a developer from Yandex and asked him about his contribution. He answered, I did a lot, over half a year. You see, there is a button on the 35th page from the bottom. There is a button. I made it. It's clear that when a man lives in such coordinates, why not play games? Would it hurt anyone? It's not because a developer is bad. It's because managers today haven't yet learned to communicate clearly to developers what their value is. Developers are incredibly valuable. They are diamonds that can move mountains. But a diamond needs the right setting. People think they bought a diamond and leave aside the setting. They are diamonds, why care? But normally, we don't present ladies with unset diamonds. Without a ring. Yeah, without a ring. Like loose gems. Pick the gem you like most. One of negative impacts on business, one of negative consequences I observe here is that business says no, we won't make a setting, we won't learn how to manage business. We'd better find a brighter and cooler diamond in the market and we'll try integrating it. Let's hope it works this time. So they find an even more talented engineer who finds him in this management culture. This management culture makes some incredibly complicated, very cool, classy projects. And how does it end? Business says, why should I care? There was no green button before. There's still none now. It's true. At the same time, the diamonds capitalization index in the market is growing. Yeah, diamonds are expensive today. Incredibly. In that sense, false signals to the market and developers too, because they think we are not progressing these days, but there is something happening. that makes our price grow. So, it's the right strategy. It's the right strategy. Let's sit still, sit tight, and things keep on improving. Developers need an honest dialogue. They need to be told it's calm before the storm. It's like tsunami when at first there is low tide. And such signs of a big overheat is water on a very low tide. If you wonder how many developers are there in the market, what's the balance? You'll find out that India alone, in year 18, if I remember right, delivered 1 million developers to the market. And it keeps building up this number year to year. Look at Russia. All young people are developers. Does it mean that there will be many diamonds in the market? No. Right. Bad management is bad because it demands for more and more diamonds. Because it demands for more and more diamonds. Very often we see that the team, instead of optimizing them, say to the contrary, why? We are a big business. Let's take another 500 developers. Oh my god, you are not getting profit from the existing ones. And what astonishes me is that business comes to developers and asks, what do you want? And developers say, they need more developers. From their angle, they are right, saying you overloaded us with tasks. No one tried to understand if such tasks are necessary, how we can do it simpler, how to do the same thing, but without such tasks. The function of a manager is responsibility in management, but from engineers' point of view, they definitely need more diamonds. Moreover, don't give us bad diamonds, give us top-notch only, because we need seniors only. In the end, business forces itself into a situation when your baggage is growing, your costs are growing, and there is less and less profit on these costs. That is a separate problem we are trying to solve by training and management of IT projects, because it's a very challenging task. If we look deeper, taking the today's programmers market, in the average, well, it seems it doubles every 5 years, and it means that half a market has experience below 5 years with our salaries. With our salaries are growing. We sit tight, doing nothing. All is fine as it is. But how do you think you act to help enterprise customers to accelerate development, making it more productive? First of all, we teach engineers. We tried it out on our team first. How exactly to find a slanky load to bring together upper-level business goals with development, because you need to understand the concept of strategy to map how it is now and how it should be, translate that into engineering terms, and isolate in a certain way everything defined by CO concept. Isolate functionality in one location. And now clearly what this location produces, it's valuable end product. And when this dialogue starts, when we begin service mapping, when we begin designing business processes, applying them to the enterprise's business org chart, conflicts in IT become obvious. Conflicts at service level, when the same entity can be generated in different places and at the same time live its own life, although someone must have an upper hand. When business processes are transversal for different services, but transversal incorrectly, lacking clear entry and exit points, All that is complication of architecture. Now, in order to make a green button in the now, incorrectly and complicated architecture, a developer has to take into account 555 peculiarities of business processes, and business comes with another 555. Absence of this isolation leads to complication. Complication may be easily interpreted as lack of working heads. That's why, first of all, we teach to listen and speak the same language, both technical teams and management staff, because managers shouldn't shift strategic decisions and shouldn't say, well, you are smart enough, you'll figure out yourself. They will, but not considering your intention. You need to communicate, usually the product owner. Who is the product owner? Ideally, the one who can explain to the team all this complicated chain, all this complex interconnection, all this complex strategy from point A to point B. But who is the product owner in practice? The one setting new tasks in backlog and confirming what we take into this sprint. Consequently, don't get surprised when developers play games in their work hours, because they see the connection between one thing and another. All they have is choice of technologies, libraries, etc. Whatever you want, but the result turns out what was wanted, not what was necessary, and everyone is unhappy. Developers are unhappy because they spend lots of efforts. Many teams work overtime. Product owner and business have hard feelings. We spend so much cost, but the green button is still not there. Everyone is unhappy. Sometimes it gets even worse when business is stable. Like enterprise, it has its cash flow. Many such dysfunctions are ignored, and then a very narrow bottleneck arises somewhere. Maybe it doesn't, or maybe it's hidden. In short, something turns unnecessary, but it's still working. Once we received a funny request from a major company. 150 people there are still coding on Perl. And they wanted to refactor all that into Python. I suppose I know this company. It's Andrei's area. They live till this time somehow. They have cash. It's fine. They could use Perl in principle. They could. Because service-oriented architecture doesn't tell which language the service should use. SOA says where the service's border is. SOA says what the monolith's key aspects are. Many developers don't understand, don't know about the difference, and don't know all that SOA is not properties of one specific application, that is a property of IT architecture. Yes, you can have either on monolith or service-oriented architecture. You can have an app as a monolith or a microservice. A service, but one way or another your SOA can be interpreted in terms of the whole IT architecture. So, of course, when teams say that we don't need bus, the question arises how services are going to interwork. Obviously, here you have microservice arch, here you interact with brokers, okay. But is it your intention to cover the whole company with microservices? Then you should be at least Amazon size in terms of processes. But usually it's not Amazon. With revenues below 1 billion, it's not quite clear what we are talking about. Microservices are not a magic pill, they come at a price. This price is paid through very complicated administration, very complicated linkage of all processes, very high culture of processes. Because Mel Conway's laws says that if one team develops several microservices, be prepared these microservices will be a one-piece monolith. They will be strongly bound to each other, and special organizational efforts are needed to prevent that. Many developers don't even imagine that when they say, we need to release this microservice, we need to check it in connection with other 6, that it's not a microservice anymore, it's a monolith. So you have to train, first of all, business and engineering to bring together their languages. Because Eric Evans states, to bring together their languages states unambiguously there is no common language between engineering and business. If you don't speak the common language, be prepared that all teams, all their members will be unhappy, and the result will not be good. Further, on training subject, let's say you have an army of super cool pro developers hired by enterprise. You mentioned the manager-focused training for manager picks by enterprise. From the point of engineering culture, the culture process. Please tell us how you communicate with your customers and enterprise looks like. Why do they ask you to come in principle, and how do you transfer the experience of the super team to enterprise? First of all, we communicate with decision makers. As a rule, with people in charge of change function, and explain them there are no miracles, that they have to learn how to manage that. Sometimes for checking the hypothesis, we just make projects right, because there's not always full trust to us. When that's the case, we make projects right, and they start well. And the major company is in this situation, so it means they outsource you the complete development. They have an idea, a hypothesis. Yes, they outsource us a project. What does a project mean? There's a product owner. From their point of view, no processes undergo any changes first. We simply make a project right. With the project made right, we, one way or another, ask the right question and get the right product. With the right product in place, a manager should ask the question, how so? We have a huge force, an army of developers, and we failed to deliver the right product, but now it's in place. Yes, what's special about it? How to assimilate it? And here we start the next conversion about management culture, about engineering. I heard recently a phrase, maybe on the verge of genius, that implementing TDD is not complicated at all. On my part, it's extremely complicated. I can't even imagine now. Managers should be made friends with bright techie guys. That genius techie who thinks it's simple should befriend a manager like that, and they both should learn how to cooperate, with an explanation that without this cooperation, neither this genius, the prominent managerial energy wouldn't yield a baby. There will be many friction, but now baby. Yeah, Andrei, could you tell us, has the number of your clients increased over the last 2-3 years? On the contrary, we purge our client profile. The portfolio, as earlier, we had many small clients somehow. Saying goodbye to them felt awkward. And then we realized we must draw the line. It doesn't make anyone happy, because we come with our processes and values, and on their side everything ends on the set green button. Just different needs. They need a different product, just different needs. You mean now you are tuning business processes to enterprise? Yes. So today our clients are few, but there are really major players. Each client has lots of projects inside. Practically, there are no exceptions. There are just 2 clients with you. 2 or 3 projects within. The rest have dozens. By the way, that adds to our vision, because when we see a big number of projects, we are not just able to talk about strategy with managers, we can also understand how it works in practice. I mean, by word of mouth. We may have one vision, but in reality, in projects, other things may be done. We can detect this disalignment and compare. Yes, discuss what do we do with this disalignment. So I wouldn't say we are focused on the number of clients, on their quantity. What's important for us? Immersion. To immerse, yeah. Listen, it's interesting. Let me ask the question, how do you build in product processes of enterprise into their production cycle when they can have a life cycle of 3 or 6 months? Things like that. Some balance you find with them. How do you enter? Usually we take the complete responsibility for a product, and the number of such products usually grows within a client. Do you have a complete autonomy there? Any big company anyway has product autonomy. There is a piece of product, even it's one big product. It contains several parts, and each part is responsible for something. When we make development in-house, we ensure the synergy of business values and development. Today, in development, our main product is project management, because their value is generated not just by development, but by the right development, and the right development is the management area. Scaling inside a major, to put it so, takes place through a pilot project or product. Then they understand you are cool, or how does it happen? Earlier, it was always through a major, through products they tasked us with. And the last 2 times, clients came with some knowledge about us from someone. There was no need for us to sell. When people at board of directors level come, you just should show and prove their expectation from us meet reality. Just this task. It's hard to work it out, because we have to apply our culture to their client's culture. We can't manage anything without the client. All this is a huge merit of our clients. Obvious, we don't make things worse. All right solutions are already available in these companies. They are simply not in place yet. May I recap it like that? As to the companies, where their management attitudes, mindsets differ from yours, you distance inform or go away, where you are looking in the parallel direction. Parallel lines don't cross. Rather, you understand together. There are no contradictions. There, from the client's relations view, the LTV is higher. Yes, exactly. We are very expensive too. So when we train managers and run projects, Our tender bid will always be higher. So when we are asked to take part in tender, we say it once, we'll probably lose it. We ask, are you sure? You really need us here? Maybe you have other performers. Today we have reputation. It was different before. It's clear if mindset differ. Sometimes they come with requests like that. The word is, you are cool, give us outstaff developers. Look, we are not about development, we have engineers, not coders. And you have a request for coding. You'll give a well-defined task. We need diamonds, in short. Yes, we need more diamonds. We need a task. But in the end, please, don't take grudges, it doesn't work. Most probably it doesn't. You are rather a jewelry house that puts together something ready. We are open, we come with our clients and start on the diamonds customized. Yeah, we'd like to experiment with startups in form of courses, where we teach them to take a right look at IT from business point. As a rule, there are no big difference with the team. However, when techies from the team start listening to us, they are suspicious first. What are you saying? Microservices are always better than monoliths. Sounds fishy. But in the further dialogue, when we are learning together with service maps, we manage to explain that it's the right way. With small businesses, we are more fit for training teams to do things themselves. With medium in big businesses, the situation is more complicated. There are more connections, more specifics you need to consider. That's why we usually come to lead some projects and to introduce the new culture through them. You see, there are other departments working in a different way. Big companies usually have lots of departments with poor cross-links. You have to demonstrate efficiency. Show them. Look, it's fast here. You can do it too. By your observations, efficiency and enterprise is demonstrated through money, speed, or money, time to market, or some other things to market. Probably it's easier here to have the project done. To do already well. Let's start with question 3. What color is the book? Or which project is not yet done? What is important? Catching hold with it. I mean that often companies with blockchain, big data, machine learning, deep machine learning, all that stuff, they have it implemented. Now we need to have it done right, we need to have it working now. As much as that, please tell us how, considering the complexity of this development specifics of enterprise, plenty of other details, overheated market, and the fact the staff is rather young and inexperienced, and they see no point in learning, there is no pressure on them to grow their competences. How do you manage to control quality and have an almost zero client outflow? No developers wants to retrograde. There are no people going to work and thinking, oh, today again, retrograde. Yeah, another thing is, I know a couple of guys, but they are rather an exception. We believe light wins over darkness. That darkness is just absence of light. If you show developers how things can be, show managers how things can be, there is no question about motivation. At the same time, it's easy and not easy. The question is not just about knowledge and hard skills, it's about soft skills, communication quality, quality of cooperation between departments, etc. But when you had it right, on the right rails, such potential conflicts, you can fight as long as you wish for a green or red button, but you know, at least hypothetically, how to measure the green or red button's effect in unit economy terms. We talk a lot about it. Just speaking about it with comparison of numbers, you already face less conflicts, because it's clear in one case it's 50 million and 50,000 in another. Hypothetically, yeah, obviously, it's a hypothesis. Usually, we are optimists, and usually a hypothesis is better than life. So, we believe it's easy to introduce changes in an enterprise. Nobody wants to be bad and outsider. Yeah, everyone wants it done classy, sometimes with no idea how. It's a pity that in our age of online conmen, it's not the easiest task at all to understand where to go. How info education is working these days. On the one hand, there's a girl saying, practice affirmations, every morning wake up, love yourself and tell yourself you're a millionaire. On the other, there are boring books, various servers, with zero traffic. Yeah, with zero traffic. And it's very easy to make a mistake. Very easy to slip into affirmations. Bit by bit, we approach our wrap-up. Deeper on the enterprise subject, your experience, any comments about slowness you might have in enterprises from the point of their in-house processes. How are you dealing with that? Have you learned to be flexible and fast? Leaking into desired areas. Slowness, yes. Its roots into many intersections of services. Non-adherence to SOA is one thing. Secondly, business processes are not clear and transparent for the whole team. These are the key points. When you start untangling the mess, every next action speeds up the team. Every solved conflict is a massive acceleration. It means now different tasks can be delegated. The issue here is in the level of IT systems complexity that prevents business from being fully responsible for its own results. And imagine an accountant who, in theory, seems to be fully responsible for his result, but as he has everything bound to technology and software, he cannot change the software and has to wait half a year for his feature. Can he be answerable for the result? No. Does he really want to deliver the result at this stage? He does. But passionality is lost. You just realize you're suppressed. Yes, to get this green feature. Now I need 6 mounts. It's clear that put pressure is no good. Putting pressure won't pass, so resolution of conflicts and alignment of the digital copy, making it closer with each new iteration. The closer the digital copy is to the real status in the company, the better it's for everyone. IT people will see their throughput, their task flow massively growing. Business will no longer be indifferent because, whatever you invent, it won't be realized. That's why I don't see problems in enterprises. Yes, sometimes there are some with bureaucracy. Tenders, it's one thing, but at some level such problems cease to exist. Usually, what purchasing or product says, have patience, we have 25 papers there, they need 25 validations, but then it will be fine. And when there is a will to progress, everyone has this wish, everyone wants to do things well. We never met anyone saying, please make me a project, but in no way better than it was conceived. make it exactly like I designed it. Maybe not well considered. Maybe this task came down. Your final question? My final question will be about development strategy and other things, but out of this interview. So please tell us about the promotion aspects. In which case, people from enterprise, its managers should contact no one but you, the team of super cool developers. We don't provide developers as such, we provide management only. Come with the hypothesis, project idea. If we can, we usually come in infrastructure where projects already exist. They are on different phases. Some they're very smart, some not done at all, some long-lasting. And in condition making it hard to implement and change things. So we come at different phases at the enterprise. It's important here to prevent the culture from blocking product owners, punishing them for changes. Sometimes that happens, but it rather applies to state companies, because paper formalities are very important for them, while private businesses pay more importance to the real situation. I never met a private business that stands up for paperwork. I think I can call it a day. Me too. Maybe you have your own comments concerning today's subject. Can people ask you questions in Facebook? You are welcome with your questions in my Facebook and Instagram. We'll put the links in the video description. I'll do my best to answer them with pleasure. So, send your questions to Andrei. By the way, his stories are extra cool and fun. You run SMM yourself, it's super rare for IT guys. Is it more for your personal self or for sales? It's both. But I can't do it without personal. Seems you are bursting with ideas, but not always by the book. There are big gaps between stories. Sometimes I'm not in the mood for story making, and there is nothing. But if a good idea hits, and if there's times, I post it with pleasure. Look, the mega last question. Today we spoke about developers who say we sit tight and quiet. Our salary is growing, no need to improve. Why don't you sit quiet? Why always on the move? Why study for 20 straight years? I'm afraid of tomorrow. I fear tomorrow. An entrepreneur turns out, yes. Yeah, that's my function, so my team delegates me this function of fearing tomorrow. I come and scare them all. I say, oh, tomorrow things will be bad, let's change. Not all of my ideas get the team's internal approval. But that's why we are the team. Cool. People, thanks a lot for watching our podcast. Write to Andrei, he'll advise in Instagram or Facebook on any question about development in enterprise. Probably you'll get a chance to work with him, and the view on connections between business, IT, technologies and development. When any fringe engineering problems arise, engineering is always about business. Thank you. Thank you all.